Is it worth investing in Section 8? Let's talk about the pros and cons. That's the topic for today's episode, and without further ado, let's dive in. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode. So in this last episode of the series, we're gonna talk about the pros and cons of investing in real estate. So let's get to the board, and I'm gonna grab my phone because I wanna make sure I don't forget any of it. And let's dive in. So one of the great things I love about Section 8 is that it is stable in the sense that your rent, it's always gonna come in right on time, right as scheduled. With the caveat that you're already in the system. So when you are new, let's say for example, you have just submitted your tenants information, your complete Section 8 package to get paid, depending on how long your information gets into the system, it could take between 30 to 60 days to first receive your rent, right? And this is just on the first paycheck. So unless you have some funds in your bank account or some sort of capital that's coming from any of your other rentals to cover this one, you're gonna, I'll say, have a hard time trying to keep up with it, because 30 days to 60 days is sort of like a long time to wait for your rent to come in. But once it comes in, it's great because again, it's stable, it's coming in every month as scheduled. All you have to do is just to collect the remaining portion of the rent from your tenant. Now, the next pro I love about Section 8 is that they are in high demand. So according to the New York Times, I was actually reading an article last week actually that talked about the high demand of affordable housing, especially in urban areas. So a good way to supply affordable housing is through the Section 8 program, because let's say for example, you can still charge whatever it's the market rent. I'm not saying overcharge, you charge whatever the market determines. If the proper rent is $2,000, then you charge $2,000. If it's $1,400, then you charge $1,400. But for some families, let's say for example, $2,000, it's a little bit much for them. So they would like to move their family into a nice neighborhood so that their kids can have access to great school systems, but maybe they cannot afford the $2,000, and that's when you step in, right? So you're gonna provide housing for that high demand because there's not enough supply to make it affordable for all those families. So you're gonna step in as a real estate investor, as a landlord, you're gonna put your house, your property as part of the Section 8 program, and then you're gonna, be a savior. You're gonna provide housing for an area that is on high demand, not enough supply. That means you don't have much of a competition because there is a lot of need for that, and you can actually tap into the funding and basically receive funding that way in a stable way. Then the next pro I like to tackle is the fact that the tenants, they have an incentive to maintain your property in a good condition. Why? Because if they don't maintain, they don't keep up with the property, they don't make sure it's nicely taken care of, they can lose the assistance that they receive from Section 8, which eventually it will translate of them not having the ability to afford to live in a type of place like that, which could eventually lead into an eviction. And nobody wants to go through an eviction. Nobody wants to put their family in the street. It's just something that is just not worth it. And all they had to do is just to keep up with the maintenance of the property. And it's a great incentive. And you, as a landlord, will expect anybody, not just Section 8 tenants, but anybody in your rentals to take good care of your property. Now, sometimes I have heard of landlords complain, and I take this with a grain of salt, that, hey, okay, well, one of the downsides of it is that if in the event that the tenant destroys your property, you don't get compensated for the damages. Now, again, I'm not sure what they're complaining about because even if you were to rent your property to a family that's not part of Section 8 and they ended up destroying your property, you will still not get compensated by anybody. It's a loss that you had to incur, and the city or the government is not going to take care of it. So what difference does it make just because they are a Section 8 tenant? And again, it's all part of the vetting process. You have to make sure that you vet them thoroughly and properly, that you do the proper background check, you check the references to make sure that they are a tenant that is worthy of your rental. And not because they are Section 8, you will do that with any other tenants anyways. So again, this is part of the complaints that I've heard, but again, I take that with a grain of salt because anybody could destroy your property, not just Section 8 tenants. The next pro that you get out of it is that you get pre-screened applicants, right? So in a way, that sort of complements your background check because those pre-screened tenants were already vetted by the PHA. They already checked that their income, it's in fact what they claim to be. They already checked some of the references, and they might have even checked their criminal records. So that's not to say that you're exempt from doing the proper due diligence or the proper background check on them. But rest assured now that you have an extra layer of reviews, of pre-screening, of vetting that was done in the tenant. And all you got to do on top of that, it's your own screening as well. And another benefit that you get out of this is that you're going to have increased visibility. Why? Well, as part of the Section 8 program, you're going to get to market your property and their website and their repositories and their listing. So that way it's going to help you increase your pool of applicants so that you have more choices to choose from. And again, beware of any anti-discriminatory laws. You have to abide by them. You have to be respectful of people and respect their religion, respect their race, and not discriminate them. And that way, otherwise you could get fined because you're just simply not compliant with the law. Okay. I just realized I completely forgot about something. One of the disadvantages about investing in Section 8 rentals, and I'm just gonna insert that right here before you get to the end of the video. So another disadvantage of renting in Section 8 properties is that sometimes you can get unannounced visits from the city for property inspection. And depending on the timing, you might get caught in a bad situation and, like, let's say for example, something breaks and the tenant never told you, or maybe something breaks and you're in the process of fixing it, but it's not ready yet because maybe you're waiting for a part or something like that, and all of a sudden the inspector just happens to appear in your Section 8 rental and you could get a fine with it. Unfortunately, that's one of the costs of doing business in Section 8, and so I want you to take that into consideration before moving on to the end of the section where you get to see or compare the two lists side by side. So you're gonna see two cons. Now you're gonna add the third one, which is the surprise unannounced visits, and just simply compare that to the list of all the advantages that you're gonna see on the other side. So yeah, again, I'm gonna leave you guys and let you get back into the rest of the video, and make sure you include this one item and the list of disadvantages. And that's it, let's get back. This is the entire list. There's only 2 items that might not work, and then you have a whole listing of benefits. But again, for some people, this might outweigh the benefits, and vice versa. For others, seeing such a long list of benefits might be enough to outweigh some of the cons. Again, the key here is to get yourself educated so you can make an informed decision and not let yourself be guided by misconceptions, by rumors that you heard on the street and stuff like that, because now you see that, you know, it can be proven that they are in fact wrong. It's all depending on the due diligence that you do on the tenants, and not necessarily something that it's a proven fact. Remember, people like to complain. Nobody's gonna go around and walk about saying great things, how things are great, how what's happening in their life that is positive, because people are just simply too busy enjoying it. But whenever something negative happens, they need to vent. They need to let it out there and let the world know. So unfortunately, it's what we typically hear about the most. But now you're here, now you see a list of pros and cons and some of the items that you could take with a grain of salt. And that's it. Hopefully you find the content valuable. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment down below, and make sure you check the links so you can have access to the entire playlist, so you can know how to vet the tenant properly, have access to the other 2 videos from this Section 8 mini series, and also to other links that you can actually check in so you can inform yourself a little bit more about Section 8 programs and how you can actually qualify your property and participate in it. So that's it. I will see you guys next time in a new video, and until then, take care. Bye-bye.